Alright, let's get through this quick. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Standard Music Issue. I'm your host, Reeklings, and today we're going through my top 10 albums of this year. Everyone's doing it, so I thought, why not? Let's give it a shot. So I listened to a lot of music this year, way more than I'm used to, right? Because there were a lot of very interesting records that came out this year that I've waited for a long time, or I saw the marketing for and got very intrigued. So, I listened to a lot of music this year, and goddamn, there was a lot of interesting music this year. So, let's just begin straight up with Brat. This is my number 10 spot. So I saw the marketing for this record, and I saw what Charlie was doing with this record, just the simplicity of this album cover really intrigued me for some reason. I saw that she was doing it for every single one of her albums, before Brat as well. When this album released, and I got very, very interested. I got very intrigued, and so I decided, you know what? Let's check it out. Let's see what it's about. And I listened to the album, and it's good. It's really, really good. In fact, it's great. I think it's one of the most captivating pop releases to have been released this year so far, and she did a great job promoting this album, and just on this album in general. I think it's a really neat and to-the-point pop record. There are a few things on it that I personally didn't like. For example, the entirety of I Might Say Something Stupid. But it's still a really good album, and I'm glad that she decided to go in the direction that she did. Okay, number 9, Sky 100 by Pyranol. Now, I discovered Pyranol in 2022, I'd like to say, and I discovered them with their album Before the Magic, which, in my opinion, is an amazing album, and I think that if you haven't heard it, you should definitely hear it. So I was very excited to see this new Pyranol album, and I took a listen, and it's not as great as Before the Magic. It's still a great album. That's why it's in my top 10. It's at number 9. I think that it's definitely not as good as Before the Magic. I think that Before the Magic is a lot... Before the Magic is a lot more polished than Sky 100. Not to say that I don't like Sky 100. I think that the tracks on here are amazing, and I think that it's still as luscious and as beautiful as all of their other records. It's just that this record feels a little bit rough around the edges at some points, and it just doesn't feel like it belongs in an album by the band Pyranol. But still, one of the best albums I heard this year, one of the greatest rock albums I heard this year. Definitely worth checking out. I think that if you haven't, you definitely should. Alright, Glass Beach with Plastic Death. Now, I've been a fan of Plastic Beach for a while. Discovered them back in 2021, and I got to interview their drummer, William White. They were a fantastic guest, by the way. But when this album released, I was very, very excited because it took them 5 years to work on LP2, and we spoke about LP2 on that same podcast on my main channel. And this is definitely one of the most anticipated records, at least in my opinion. I've been waiting for this album for so goddamn long, and when it released, I have to say that I was a tad bit underwhelmed upon first listen. When I came back and listened to it a couple more times, I was like, okay, I see where this is heading, because this is still a great album, and I think that it deserves a lot more love than it has gotten in the past, almost a year since it released. It's a really captivating record, and all the bandmates sound fantastic on it. Jay's vocals are still as amazing as always, just like they were on the last record. great album, great tracks. I think that the lead single shouldn't have been The CIA, in my opinion. But, again, that's just me. Good album. Good album. Alright. At number 7, we have Flight B741 by King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. I don't really have words for this album other than the fact that it's just fun. It's just lighthearted fun from the Australian boys. This is, I think, their like 28th album. I don't know what number we're on, but it's definitely in the 20s, in the late 20s, near 30s. But it's fun to see them just like scale back and go into this like really rockabilly blues sound. I listened to this entire album while on a car ride, and it was just so fun. I had a big ass smile on my face throughout the entire goddamn ride. It was amazing. I love the last track where they just repeat "I'm a silly Billy" like a million times. It's hilarious. It's a great album. And I love that it just flows together as one consecutive piece. Lead single, Le Risque, is a fantastic song. I think it's one of their best that they've put out in the past few years. Overall, great album, great sound. Go check it out if you haven't yet. Alright, at number 6, this might be controversial, but Imaginal Disc. Yes, it's quite low, I know. But I haven't gotten to spend a lot of time with this album, or with Magdalena Bay in general, but I got introduced to this album by one of my friends about 2 months ago, and the first time I listened to it, I didn't know what to think about it, but I came back to it a few more times throughout the next 2 months, and I really had time to digest it, and it's fucking fantastic. Like, this is one of the best art pop records I've heard in a while. And last year, I really liked Caroline Polachek's Desire I Want to Turn Into You, but this is better. In my opinion, this is better than that album. I really like it. It's one of the most captivating pop records I've heard. It's way better than Brat, in my opinion. And it's just awesome. It's just awesome. It sounds good. The lyrics are great. And this fucking album cover is sick. Good album. Great production, too. There's not really much for me to say about this other than I enjoyed it, and you should definitely listen to it. Alright, this opinion is definitely gonna kill me, but at number 5, we have Short and Sweet by Sabrina Carpenter. Okay. Let me just say this. I have not heard of Sabrina Carpenter up until last year, when I got introduced to her album, Emails I Can't Send. And when I heard that she's releasing a new album this year, I was like, oh man, this is gonna be another one of those extremely sad records, because Emails I Can't Send Forward is extremely sad, and I loved it for that. And then I heard lead single, Espresso, and I was like, what the hell happened? I was not a big fan of Espresso at all, but then August came around, the last week of summer vacation, and this album released. So I had a full listen, front to back, start to finish, of the entire album. And I didn't click with it at first. And then I heard it again from start to finish, and then I was like, oh, I see what's going on here. It's a really fun album. You can just, like, listen to it and just not give a shit about anything else. It's a lot of the same subject matter as the last album, just talking about boys and how they're bullshit. Agreed. But, yeah, I love this album, and I'm glad that I got to spend more time with it, and I'm glad that I had my opinions changed on it. It's great. It's really cohesive, and it flows together super well too, and it doesn't overstay its welcome. And so it's only like 30 something minutes. It doesn't overstay its welcome. and it doesn't drag, and I really appreciate that about this album. It's really great. It's really great. All right. Vampire Weekend, Only God Was Above Us. This band's triumphant return after 5 years since their last album. I am a big fan of Vampire Weekend. I love their initial trilogy, and I really love their 2019 album. And when this album was released, I was like, please don't fuck this up. Please don't fuck this up. Please don't fuck this up. And they did it, and it's one of the best records I heard this year. I feel like a broken record saying this, but goddamn, this album is immaculate. The vocals on here are insane. The lyrics are amazing. The sound of this is just incredible. And look at this album cover. Look at it. It's amazing. It's genuinely one of the best album covers of this entire year. But yeah, this is definitely like my favorite alternative record from this year. It's punchy, it's groovy, it has a lot of captivating moments, and I'm very glad that they came back to give us this incredible record. All right. At number 3, we have Chromacopia. Now, I'm gonna be honest. I didn't really like Call Me If You Get Lost when it released. I didn't. And then as I started hearing it more, I was like, oh shit, this album is really, really good. I love Call Me If You Get Lost now. This is over Call Me If You Get Lost. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I don't even think it's like recency bias. It's just really good. But yeah, seeing the teaser on YouTube, then going to Twitter and seeing the album title and the cover, and then seeing the release date, all happening over 2 fucking weeks, makes this one of the best album rollouts I've ever seen. Fucking great album, great production, so vulnerable. It's like so goddamn vulnerable. I can't listen to it and not cry at least one of the tracks here. I was in school when this album released, and I listened to it front to back while in school. I barely paid attention to classes, which is something that you should definitely not do, kids. Pay attention to your goddamn classes. But I heard this album, and I was just in awe of how good this album is. Amazing production, amazing vibe, just really emotional lyrics, and great vocal deliveries from both Tyler and the extensive amount of features on here. It's really great. It's amazing. It's like the best rap album of this year. Sorry, GNX. All right, and number 2, we have Jack White's No Name. Now, I love Jack White. I love the White Stripes. And when I heard of this album, I was like, oh shit. It was a complete surprise drop. This was given away for free on vinyl at Third Man record stores. And when I heard it on Spotify, I was on my way to this like convention thing. And this soundtracked that ride so perfectly. It was so abrasive. It rocks so goddamn hard. It's so bluesy. It's a goddamn ball breaker, dude. I love No Name. It's like the hardest Jack has rocked us, I think, since Lazaretto. Fear of the Dawn and Entering Heaven Alive were amazing records, don't get me wrong. No Name is just fucking fantastic. It's just it just punches you and you like it. I'm sorry. I'm not a professional reviewer. I'm just doing this because, for funsies. Okay, and at number 1, the new sound. This was my highest rated album of this year, and for good reason. I love the new sound so much. It's amazing. It is such a mess, but in the best way possible. I don't think I went away from this album without thinking once to myself, is Jordy Griep okay? But yeah, Jordy Griep, former vocalist of Black Midi, came out with this fucking album out of nowhere. And I heard it front to back, and it's great. It's great. It's like one of the most. It's like such a weird soundscape. You have these like bossa nova elements at some points, and you have this like messy sound collage at a different point. And this album is so goddamn vulnerable. And it gets to the point where it's sometimes uncomfortable, but like, God, it's great. I love this album, and I think that it deserves all the attention that it's got, and I think it deserves all the high ratings that it's got. Amazing album. Truly, truly amazing. And if you haven't heard this, please do. It's so gonna be worth your time. So yeah, that was my year-end list of 2024. Please subscribe if you enjoyed, and I will see you all possibly next year. Bye-bye.